Hello, okay. Now, this is my second attempt at making a film about the new Star Wars film. The first one was, I was trying to understand why I, a 35-year-old man, had had a stressful dream about Luke Skywalker. And it was basically, I was participating in the new Last Jedi film, and they were getting Luke Skywalker wrong, basically, and I was getting stressed about it. It went on all night. I was going to look at like why I care about Luke Skywalker, why we care about heroes at all, what makes a hero, how heroes have been represented recently, how I wish they were represented. It just got a bit silly. So I'm just going to do a series of little thoughts on the new Star Wars film. Just partly just to get them down on record, just in case any of them come true or not at all. Okay, so 3 sections. I'll rattle through them as quickly as I can. Basically, firstly, there's a series of things I think have to happen in this new film. They're must-haves. They're red lines. And if they don't happen, I am gonna be upset. I'm gonna probably talk about it quite loudly when I'm drunk, and eventually I'll forget it. But I won't be happy, basically. So red lines in the sand. There's also some nice to have, so things that I'd like to see in this new film that, you know, not essential, but, you know, I feel would be worth including. Finally, predictions, random predictions about each of the characters and how they might go, how they might not go. Okay, so section 1, written demands. I've written demands here. So that means these, as I see it, they have to happen. Number 1, Luke Skywalker, my favourite character in the Star Wars franchise, if that's what we're calling it now. He was always my favourite. Now, I got a bit upset at the end of Force Awakens because it was set up as like the search for Luke Skywalker, and then it became like that wasn't integral to the climax of the film. None of the emotional climaxes of the film had anything to do with Luke Skywalker. It wasn't about Luke Skywalker. And anyone who says that Luke Skywalker was the MacGuffin in that film, well, they need to either reassess what they mean by MacGuffin, or they need to like just assess it properly, which was imagine, if you will, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones getting to the Lost Ark for that first time in the Well of Souls or whatever, where all the snakes are, getting the Ark out, finding the Ark, and then being like, the end, tune in next time to see what actually happens with the Ark. It would be rubbish, and the Ark is the ultimate MacGuffin. So that's why I was wholly unsatisfied with the ending of The Force Awakens, because it had nothing to do with Luke, and I watched it again and I enjoyed it immensely. It's fine. I hate that episodic cliffhanger. It didn't work for me. Anyway, my point is, and I said this at the time, there's got to be an incredibly good reason for him to be stuck on that island. More accurately, an incredibly good reason why he didn't come running when Han was in intense emotional pain. When Han and Leia, when his friends were in intense emotional pain, Luke didn't come running. Because the only interesting thing about Luke's character, really, from the first 3 films, is the fact that he's willing to risk the destruction of the galaxy, billions upon billions of lives. He's prepared to risk it all, to abandon his training, to go against the express word of Yoda and Obi-Wan, to go and help his friends. They're like, Luke, you must stay and complete the training. Look at the bigger picture. Luke's like, screw your bigger picture. I'm going to go help my friends. Now, obviously, Luke's character has to change in this film, obviously, because he can't rock up and have him still be the same Luke Skywalker. It doesn't make sense. He has to be at odds with the protagonist in order for it to make any sense at all, or for it to work at all. But you still have to have logic there. Damn good reason why he left Han to twist in the wind. Damn good reason why he didn't go to help Leia. And then, following on from that, there's got to be a damn good reason that gets him off the island. Do you see what I mean? So, fair enough if you're saying he's lost confidence in his decisions, so he feels like he can't participate in galactic events anymore. Fair enough. But then what gets him off the island? And why did he make a map and put part of it? I'm going to set aside that map thing completely. I'm going to leave that, because I can't be getting upset about that again. And that bit where R2-D2 just woke up for no reason. Oh, waking up now. Now J.J. Abrams has to go round on a press tour and explain that bit. That means you failed. That means it wasn't done right. Am I mental there? If you have to explain something in a press tour. It is something that's annoying. They're saying, I remember being dead excited in the lead to The Force Awakens, right? Because my mate Neil was like, check this interview out. And it was an interview with Kathleen Kennedy, and she said that she convinced J.J. Abrams to direct The Force Awakens because he was reluctant. The way she convinced him was by effectively boiling it down to an elevator pitch. And the pitch was, who is Luke Skywalker? Look it up, that's what happened. To which I can only assume J.J. Abrams' response must have been, I don't know, or I don't want to know, so kick the can down the road. I'm not getting into that. Okay, so that's it. Damn good reason for him to be on that island. Even better reason for him to get off. Has to happen, and it has to be great. I think that will actually be fine, to be honest. I think I over-egged. It was back when I was thinking, well, Luke's got to be the Luke that he was in the original trilogy. Obviously, he can't be, and he mustn't be. We'll get onto some more of that later. So that's a demand. Here's another demand, and I feel it is a red line that has to be addressed. Luke and Leia have to meet, and she's got to be pissed off at him. It can't be like a hug. It can't be like, oh, well, I know that you were looking at some stuff on an island. It's got to be, where were you when we needed you? When the galaxy needed you? Because Leia's a big picture person. She's the leader of the Resistance. And, like, the galaxy's getting messed up. Loads of planets just got destroyed. And Luke's just, like, sat on his island with a hood. Do you know what I mean? She should be as mad at him as I am at him. Damn good reasons for this are needed. And I tell you why that has to happen is because they didn't do it with Luke and Han in The Force Awakens. Now, you can just about get away with that once, maybe, but you can't get away in making a new Star Wars sets of trilogies featuring the original characters and never have them, and only have like Han and Leia meet, and not have Luke meet either Han or Leia. You can't do that. Surely you can't do that again. In which case, she's got to slap him. He'd be like, oh, I mean, what's he going to say? Oh, I'm sorry, I was a bang. Grow up, Luke. We need you. Some good reasons required for this. Seriously. That's a must-have. A must-have. Okay. Now, I think that's probably it for the must-haves, which it really is set for, like, because there was so little detail really in Force Awakens about what had happened before, all the interesting stuff that we didn't see. You hope that it's not going to be too much overload of information, but that's all the stuff I like, is like the myth of the Force and the backstory, the reasoning about why stuff happened. It's nice to have all the action and stuff, but I want some real emotional heft. So on to the nice to haves. Right, nice to haves. Back to Luke Skywalker, who is my the favourite character, and I remember saying to Neil when I went to see the first one, before we went to see it, I said to him, imagine being the writer who had the responsibility to come up with Luke Skywalker's like a first scene. Imagine like how much you'd stress over it and how much you'd set things up so that would be everything it could be. What a responsibility, but what a cool thing. Now, in theory, The Force Awakens should really have been one big build to that Skywalker reveal. And it wasn't, no matter how much, even though it was the last shot. Anyway, that's done. So now, the responsibility is to give him a moment that makes some sense within the story and that is within the emotional, maelstrom of all the other character stuff. Give him a moment. I demand a moment for Luke Skywalker. Now, how would you do it though? Because you can't have him be the same as Obi-Wan and indeed Han Solo were in the films where they died. You can't have them be the Guardian helping the wizard helping the youngster along and then sacrificing himself so the youngster can live or get away or whatever. You can't do that again. But Rian Johnson has referenced that. Well, he sort of speaks about how you got to stay away from the cliches or the natural way of doing things or the obvious way of doing things, even while paying lip service to them. So, and from the trailers, it definitely looks like he's not instantly this training dude. He's not the mentor that Rey wants. Which would be great, but here's where the responsibility comes in. Luke Skywalker cannot be the Luke Skywalker who was from the original trilogy when we meet him in this, because they won't work with Rey then. There'll be no conflict, no point in anything. But it doesn't have to stay that way. But the most obvious way of him getting around it would be to sacrifice himself, but he can't do that because Han did it, Obi-Wan did it. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I don't know. I just don't know. But just give me a moment. So big ace moment for Luke. As to what happens to him, maybe we'll try and do that in a prediction later on. But just have it be wicked. Just have it be wicked, please. And this is nice to have. Something I don't want to see. I don't want to see him use a lightsaber. I do not want to see him use a lightsaber, which is weird because that was one of my favourite bits of the original films. Luke's lightsabery bits, specifically that bit in Return of the Jedi where he just cuts everyone to shreds at Jabba's palace, and the fight at the end, you know. But that's when he's learning, and I like this idea of, well, it's not expanded universe or anything, but the idea of Yoda in Empire Strikes Back being all like, you know, wars not make one great. Wars not make one great, i.e. the ability to fight doesn't make you anything of anything. It just makes you a good fighter. It doesn't make you anything worthwhile if you do it for the wrong reasons, or if you do it unless you have to. Now, Yoda using a lightsaber in the prequels was, I think, largely now accepted as dreadful, and just a shame as well. And the Emperor as well, because the Emperor was so badass in Return of the Jedi because he didn't even need anything. He just needed his rancid ass cloak and the lightning. That's all he needed. He didn't need like a sword or a lame. So if Luke Skywalker uses a lightsaber, have it just be the Force. Basically, if he gets attacked, if he has to, what I want to see, right? I want to see him like, fair enough if you're going to make him not use the Force because he's scared of it or something. But presumably once he's off the island and stuff's happening, if someone comes at him with a lightsaber, I just want it to stand there and just have them just disintegrate or bounce away at least. Or if he's going to use a lightsaber, just use the Force to take theirs and beat them with their own lightsaber. Or use the Force to wield a lightsaber somewhere. But just not, he should be above fighting now. He should be so powerful that he doesn't need to fight at all. And he chooses not to. And he shouldn't need to because he's not the hero. So what they do with that should be exciting. Let's not have him use a lightsaber yet. I know there's a picture of him in one of the posters with a lightsaber. I think it's a foreign one. So hopefully that doesn't come to pass. No lightsabers, please. Okay, next. Music. Right. This is more triggered by Rogue One. And basically what happened in Rogue One, which is a film I didn't like. I liked the parts of it, but I didn't like most of it. Because I didn't care about any of the main characters. And they were not good characters. What I did like was the main music cue. Like the intro, as confusing as it was, but then when the main title came up, it bang, and it's that slight variation with the same first two notes, major fifth if you're interested, of the Star Wars theme, but then a different one. It says ba 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 ba, something like that. And my exact thought was, that is wicked. I can't wait to hear that again over the hero doing something wicked. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it happened. There was never a point where Jyn Erso did anything heroic and that theme played. And it's a bit of a current thing in films at the moment where people seem to be hesitant to have that big moment where the theme tune plays. And you think of Indiana Jones, the moments where he does something wicked and it's Superman, Luke Skywalker from the original Star Wars, as he's doing his heroic stuff. That's just the moments I crave, and that's kind of all I want. A couple of those per film that get built to and that made sense emotionally for all the characters to do something cool. The music plays. I'm a happy boy. Now I think that might have happened in Force Awakens. They'll have had the theme playing while various things happened, but I want something more. I want it to work. James Bond's the most egregious one. There's a new James Bond film with Daniel Craig where they don't use the theme tune because they like just think, oh, we're too cool to use the da-na-na-na-na. James Bond does something wicked. They won't play that theme tune because they're too cool or it's too old and sad. And they play it for the credits at least. Come on. Give us what we want. You're not asking for much. Maybe I am. Next. Right. Now, this is something that's almost definitely going to... Well, it is definitely going to be in there. But I remember talking to my friend Neil before we were watching the first Force Awakens. And my thought was that how it would go, if it was the search for Skywalker and he was the MacGuffin as they claimed, they'd find him halfway through the film or the height of the second act to set up the third act. And he'd say something that turned everything on its head. By which I mean the established order of things, this relentless Skywalker generational thing, the notion of Jedi being what Jedi are, the notion of what we think Jedi are. And it was either some sort of retcon where it was everything you thought was a certain way is not that like that anymore, and now it's like this, and that sets us off for the rest of this new era. Or if not a retcon, then some sort of detonation of the perceived order of things where Jedi are concerned Makes sense? Now, it looks like they're going to do that. I mean, it's called The Last Jedi, and you've got him in the trailer saying it's time for the Jedi to end, so it looks like that's going to happen. So that's good. Now, what I'd personally like it to be, and again, this is the nice to haves, but my sort of half prediction, half desire is for it to be just like just getting rid of this Skywalker. I know they're still calling it the Skywalker saga, but I just like them to just shit can that whole thing of it. Just this one family being like deciding the fate of the galaxy with their own petty nonsense, and just open it out, just open it back out. And this idea of destiny as well is it's I don't like destiny in films personally, because it just means, you know, the hero's always going to survive. You're destined to be the one, the chosen one. Like Harry Potter. Harry Potter didn't need that destiny stuff. It just means it's just a bit of a lame thing that sort of removes the element of choice, and then it brings in this kind of unnecessary thing. Whereas if I know it's the Anakin doing a self-fulfilling prophecy of destiny in the prequel, where, you know, if he's scared about destroying his family, him being scared about it and taking extreme actions to avoid it eventually leads to him actually effecting it. And that's all. It's all right, I guess, but it's just a bit. Can we just get back to just some ordinary Joe doing extraordinary things and like not being destined for anything great, which sort of brings us to Rey. And now, one of the problems with The Force Awakens was that Rey gets set upon a desert planet that looks like Tatooine. And why? Why? I understand wanting to evoke the originals, but the original plan for that planet, according to the art of the conceptual art, was for it to be a junk planet. That would have been wicked. Probably way too expensive, I guess. But anyway, so Rey's on this planet, and she's been left there by her parents. And she says to BB-8 when she finds him, she's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm here. You know, big secret why I'm here." And we don't find out anything about it in the entire film. So basically, when that film, in the first 10 minutes of that film, I'm like, and I feel I'm justified in wanting this. I'm like, right, search for Luke Skywalker is missing. It's a map for Luke Skywalker. Count me in. The search for Skywalker. Oh, Rey, why is she on this planet? She's telling me, the audience, big secret. Oh, I want to find out. By the end, it's just fuck you and fuck you. Nothing to do with that. So basically, I'm over that now. I don't care about Rey's parents anymore. What I kind of care about is that I want them not to be anything to do with the Skywalkers or the Kenobis or anything else. Personally, I'd just rather she was just some ordinary Joe. Her parents left her there for convenience or something, and she's just normal. She just happens to be good at what she does. Wouldn't that be refreshing and nice? I don't know. Although one of the theories that I do like about The Force Awakens is that Rey was originally a student at Luke's academy, and she was the one that got saved, and she got her mind wiped, and she got stuck on a planet. And then The Force Awakens in the title, rather than it being the Force itself that is awakening, the Force is actually doing the awakening to Rey. The Force is awakening Rey to her realisation that she's actually very good at the Force. And that sort of explains why she's incredibly good at the Force with very little training. That would be nice. I'd like it to just be she's just badass. And I'm not an ordinary person. It's not a Skywalker. Let's just sack off this Skywalker stuff, man. Sack it off. Another thing I'd like at least to be hinted at is, now, I'm not an expanded universe fan. I'm not these people who were like trying to justify how shit all the Dooku duels were, and how Obi-Wan couldn't beat Dooku, but could beat Anakin because, oh, well, Dooku is the master of the Shang Tui branch of lightsaber wielding, because it said it so in this novel that no one's read. I only care about really what's in the films. But one of the most blindingly bright thread of the films in terms of the overall arc was how Anakin fell to the dark side and Luke didn't, and what helped them through that. It was probably one of it really got absolutely on the nose hammered in the prequels. But it's basically that Anakin loves his mother as anyone would, and when she's in pain, he wants to go and help her, but the Jedi tell him not to. The Jedi basically tell him you got to have no feelings as a Jedi, which is problematic because they're all lamos when they become a proper Jedi. Anyway, so you got to let go of attachment. If someone dies, you rejoice that they're one with the Force. You don't wish to keep them close to you. But Anakin wanted basically his mum to be alive. He wanted Padme to survive and his kids to survive, and he went to terrible lengths to do that and paid the price. We won't get into how shit they actually did it, but the point is all he wanted to do was have his family around him. But it was the Jedi stopped him. The Jedi sort of forced him down that road of extreme measures by not letting him just have attachments. Attachment is forbidden. Whereas Luke, they tried to do the same with him. Yoda and Ben tell Luke to forget his friends. And Yoda says it outright. Like, you know, and let my friends die. And Yoda goes, yes, if you value what they fight for, then yes, let them die for it. And Luke's like, screw you, pal. As we'd like to think we'd do in the same circumstances, which is what makes Luke Skywalker great. Screw you, I'm going to go off and save him. But basically, that's why he ends up winning. And Obi-Wan and Yoda don't think that's the right course of action. Luke ends up winning because of his faith in his friends. The Emperor even says to him, you know, Luke says to the Emperor, your overconfidence is your weakness. The Emperor responds, your faith in your friends is yours. And evil people don't have that faith in their friends. The Emperor doesn't have any friends. He's only got people who are scared of him. Luke's got his friends. That's what brings him through. That's the only interesting thing about him. Which is why I want to see more of that in the next one. My point was, it would be nice to see that referenced. Because if Luke... We know that Luke has established a school for training Jedi in the intervening years between the Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi. Luke started a school and it's all gone wrong. But if Luke was teaching the old Jedi ways at that school, the ways of attachment is forbidden, let go everything you love, that's the only way to do it, then that's not consistent with not consistent with everything we saw, even in only the original trilogy. You know, letting go of the prequels, hammering it home to death. Luke's strength with his connection to his friends. So if he's now teaching people to lose that connection, then that doesn't work. So I'd like to know how he taught. Maybe we won't see that, but if we don't see that, I'd like to see it addressed somehow. If he meets Kylo again, it's got to be like, was he trying to tell Kylo to let go of his loved ones, to push them away? I mean, just think what part Snoke's got to play in this. There's so much backstory to unpick. I know that they skirted over it in the first one to keep it moving, and that was probably the right decision. But then, like, it's got to ring true. That has got to ring true. So I'd like to see that addressed. Next. Okay, so now predictions. So this is just like predictions of what might happen to the main characters based on what we've seen or based on what I'd like to see. So this is like not things that have to happen or that I demand. It's just, postulating some stuff, yeah? So with Rey, character, I love the character of Rey. Just because she's like just nice, she wants to do the right thing. She's fun, she's badass. So then it's like, what's going to happen now? So presumably she wants to get trained by Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker won't train her. He's got so much stuff to fill in. She doesn't know anything about the Jedi, so she's got a lot of learning to do. But something must happen on the island that's a bit weird in the sense that he can't just sit down and tell her everything because he doesn't want to. So what happens there? Does he grudgingly train her? Again, what would make him get off the island? Anyway, enough about Luke, back to Rey. There's some talk about, like, will she accept Kylo's help? Because that was, the trailer seemed to imply that. I think that might be a red herring, I don't know. I can't see her turning to the dark side. I can't see her being tempted by the dark side. What is there? What grist for the storytelling mill is there for her to turn to the dark side? Does she want power? She doesn't know any backstory about anything to demand power to do anything. Vader wanted power to save people's lives. I don't know, like, what, do you know what I mean? What could make her twist to the dark side? I can't personally see it. Doesn't mean to say it won't happen, but I don't think it will. I think she'll just end up being super badass. But it's more interesting is, like, what's going to happen to Kylo? Because with Kylo Ren, who's a character I think that's one of the great Star Wars characters, really, just because how complex he is. For all that Rey is good, she's very straightforward, but Kylo's got a very interesting, like, just massively conflicted, but yeah, the reversal of when you meet Luke, he's light and he's being tempted to the dark. Kylo's almost dark and being tempted to the light in Force Awakens to an extent. But basically what's happened is he's killed his dad in cold blood, given a clear choice between good and bad. He killed his father. So I saw something on my Facebook, right? One of my mates, a friend of one of my friends, they were talking about this scene in a comment, and he was saying that, it's obvious that Han Solo ignites Kylo's lightsaber to basically kill himself in order to somehow set in motion some sequence of events that lead to Kylo's redemption. And this guy who suggested this was like, it's so obvious that this is happening. If you'd have the most rudimentary ability to read cinema, you'd see that this is definitely happening. Come on, no. I cannot accept that, no. Now, because it would just be stupid. So that's what happened. He killed his dad in cold blood, and it was his choice to do so. That means, in my eyes, Kylo Ren now is irredeemable. In the same way that Anakin's irredeemable once he killed those innocent kids. The only way he can be redeemed is through complete self-sacrifice to save his son. So with Kylo then, you've got to think that kind of... Again, it'd be difficult to do that same thing because he's been set up as like a Vader equivalent almost. He wants to be Darth Vader. He's got the look and that. He's just ostensibly the henchman villain of this new trilogy. But where is there to go for him in part 2 that would be surprising? Because you can't... I'm going to say you can't do that. You can't have him sacrifice himself to save someone. Or if that was going to happen, you'd think it would happen in the third one. Unless he dies in this one as a surprise. I don't know. But again, how hard can you echo what's happened when he's so obviously not a pastiche, but the new version of Vader? What could be interesting here? Because he can't, like I say, irredeemable in my eyes. He can't be like, sorry about killing Han. I'm now going to try and be a good guy. Again, that can only come, I feel, with an ultimate self-sacrifice of his own death, which I don't think we'll see in this film. So what's going to happen? I don't know. Really don't know. Could be interesting. Maybe there's something interesting with Snoke. Speaking of Snoke, let's do Snoke now. Like, Snoke's just a bit like... It was fine, the Snoke stuff. I hate CG villains, because he's not there. And all he was like, why did he need to be a CG villain? All he was just like slightly burned and messed up. You could have done that. And I think like people are just coming round recently, surely, to the fact that CG villains they're lame. Your mind knows they're not real, so when you're having this big fight, there's no one there. And when you're talking to them, there's no one there. Get Andy Serkis in, have him actually play it. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping he's not in it too much, because I don't care about it, because he doesn't exist anywhere. My brain knows he doesn't exist anywhere. I don't care about him. But even so, the bits with him, to be honest, the only annoying bits were when Leia was talking about him. It just seemed so stupid. It was just like, it wasn't your fault, Han. Snoke led him away. It was all Snoke. I was like, well, why should I give a fuck about... What is he even? This old thin guy. And this comes in where I think like a major misstep of Force Awakens. And I think anyone would agree this. And I understand why they had to try, I guess, to make it feel like the originals. They just really bent over backwards to make it so that the Empire, the First Order is the big, massive, well-equipped threat. And the good guys are plucky underdog rebels. So now they're the resistance. Whereas, wouldn't it have been interesting if Snoke was like a guerrilla leader of these like, separated, marginalised fragments of the Empire? Not many of them. Powerful people, but not many of them, with no central leadership. What if he brought them together as a kind of guerrilla insurgent force against the Republic, who are now fighting to not become the Empire again? So then, as the original prequel trilogy was about how one man can turn a republic into an empire, fascist empire, now the story in this new trilogies would be how do good people take over an empire and make it good again? How do you do that? How do you avoid being viewed as a new empire? And what happens if the First Order are like painting themselves out to be freedom fighters, but they're actually evil? You know what I mean? That's interesting stuff. Way more interesting, I would argue, than the First Order are massive and the Resistance is now plucky underdog resistance again. It's just been done anyway. So now Snoke's not that interesting. That's the upshot of that. There's nothing to him. So how did he get to be the big guy? Do I want to know? Kinda, but I don't want to spend any time on it. Okay, next. Luke. I think we've done Luke. The interesting thing about Luke is that how does it end for Luke in this new trilogy? How does it end for him? You see what I mean? Because, again, Rian Johnson talking about you don't want to be doing the obvious things. The obvious thing to me with Luke is, partially because of the facial resemblance, the thing that pops to mind is the film Tron, the new Tron film. So in that film, you got a guy's son who goes to find his father, ostensibly a mentor, to find out what's going on, to warn him about something, to get his help, basically. Get there. His father is not interested too much in helping him, tries to dissuade him, ends up grudgingly helping him, and then ends up sacrificing his own life so that his son can escape back into the real world. And in doing so, shows astonishing power that he'd hitherto kept hidden because he didn't want to use it or whatever. That's a really good bit in Tron, where his kid's running back across the bridge, and then Jeff Bridges is the bad guy's coming to get his son. Jeff Bridges just basically turns into pure power and just annihilates him, uses the Force to just annihilate the threat, which he could have done at any point, but he chose not to until the right moment. That's why it works. That's why it feels good. And that's the obvious thing to do for Luke Skywalker, is to have him somehow be subsumed into the Force, you'd think, through some kind of sacrificial act that lets Rey live or get away or get her full potential. But here's the tricky thing with this Luke Skywalker thing, is you can't have him sacrifice himself like Han kind of did in Force Awakens. You can't just at the end of Act 2 have Luke Skywalker fall on his sword like Obi-Wan Kenobi did in the original Star Wars. Something new has to happen there, but equally, you can't really... Could you really see him having a happy ending? Going off and just living in a hut, or being part of the Resistance with Leia? And Leia's got to be written out of this, don't forget, because she sadly passed away in real life. Carrie Fisher passed away, so now they had to write her out of it. So what do you do with those characters then? You can't... do they both... Does Leia die in this? Does she sacrifice herself? I don't know. So to what they do with Luke would be very interesting. Very interesting. So let's go on to Leia then. It'd be great to see her be more front and centre, and just be more of an active character rather than just being puppet master behind the scenes, sending people off. Now it's tricky because I don't know. I can't pretend that I thought Carrie Fisher was great in Force Awakens, or that she was that compelling a sort of actress. I can't really say I'd want to see her do lots of fun stuff. I don't know, but for the sake of the character, I hope they give her something massive and cool, just to. Because she's the pragmatist who's trying to make a difference in the universe. Luke's off on his fucking island. She's the one that's fighting, making some big decisions. But then it's this difference between big picture thinking of the, how to run a republic, which we're not getting with her, by the way. She's just now plucky Resistance again, versus Luke's introspection. So there's room for conflict there, and I hope they do have a conflict, but then ultimately come back together. At the end, Finn. Forgotten about Finn and Poe. Finn, I loved him. Compelling to watch. I loved the way, you want sympathetic characters who care what happens to you. I love Finn's relentless, just wanting to make sure that Rey's okay, because he fancies her, obviously, but also just to do the right thing. But part of something that I think, what I'd rather have had for Finn's character, basically, he's got this, hatred of the First Order, and rightly so, and he's somehow snapped out of their brainwashing, but at no point does he want to go back and save anyone else from that brainwashing. He's I've got out, I'm fine, we need to run from the First Order, I've met this hot girl, let's be together forever, forget about them. There's no sort of, we need to free these people, because it's almost like they went halfway with it. They went halfway with so much in Force Awakens. They went halfway with the notion of, can a stormtrooper be good? What makes someone evil? And they basically said, well, in theory, Finn is probably done some bad things as a stormtrooper, but he's been brainwashed, so he's all right. So, is that just him then? Are we supposed to now just enjoy the sight of all these other stormtroopers being blown up because they're all evil? He didn't try and save any of them. Now, thinking where else for his character to go. If he's going to go after the First Order to destroy them, and it looks like he's going to, he's having a fight with Captain Phasma and whatnot, then you'd want to have a bit of, maybe a realisation that he can help them, he can free them, these nasty stormtroopers. Actually help them become normal, reintegrate them into society. I don't see where else there is to go for him. Because his interesting thing in that first one was so much providing misdirection with him. Is he going to be a Jedi with a lightsaber? But yeah, I hope they get together. It'd be nice. Poe, I don't know, he just feels like one good guy character to do too many. If there's any character I'd sideline and just have him do some cool stuff now and again, it'd be Poe. I don't really care about his grand story because he's just a step removed. But it's fine. I mean, he's likable. Here's something I'd like to see, actually. Is just some lust and some sex, or some lusty sex. Someone lusting for lusty sex. Just because that Force Awakens was just so sexless and like just passionless in those terms. Whereas, you know, as much as Han Solo wasn't really my favourite character in the originals too, the original trilogy, it's great the way I was just randy all the time, because people are allowed to want sex even in alternate galaxies, and hot girls are still hot girls and hot guys are still hot guys. You can still have in love, in warfare, heightened, you know, fear and passion. Heightened fear heightens passion, you know. I guess I've seen it. It's good stuff when it happens, you know, because you would. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Just a bit more, just lusty. I know it's for kids. But Star Wars was for kids, and Luke was lusty after Leia for most of Star Wars. And Empire Strikes Back. Just because you have it in there doesn't mean that it suddenly becomes this rated R nightmare. Han Solo is effectively like, he's borderline harassing Leia for most of Empire Strikes Back. Now obviously he wouldn't do it like that this time. I never thought about that like that, actually. He is a bit of a sex pest. And yet, here's the thing about kids. So yeah, it's a film for kids. And here's just something that makes me laugh. People say Phantom Menace is a film for kids. Is it though? Because there's a lot of stuff about trade disputes in there that I don't think kids are going to be that asked about. My point is, with children's literature and films, you can smuggle a lot in. A lot of stuff that happens in kids' books is absolutely horrific, but because kids don't have the frames of experience of life yet, they don't connect these things that are happening in the same way that adults do. So you can smuggle a lot through in children's fiction, basically, that doesn't resonate in the same horrifying way that it might resonate with an adult. So it's just different. You just see what I mean? So you can still have some lusty looks in there, some kissing, some snogging, maybe. And it can still be a kid's film. You know, Indiana Jones is a kid's film. It was lusty as. Just a bit more on that, please. Right. I think that'll probably do it. I don't know if I'll post this anywhere. I just wanted to get down in the record my predictions and like just figuring out what's happened. I might do a few videos on the day if Neil's up for it. Charting our experience throughout the day, because when we went to Force Awakens, we spent the entire 2 days of a weekend, because we saw it a week after it came out. Basically, we spent the day, we went out in town and that, but we were staying away from groups of people in case they were talking about it, because we wanted to be unspoiled. We were so, in a cinema, we found a quiet corner and basically just huddled up in it, fearful of any spoilers, and we managed it in the end, so I hope we manage to do that again, though I can't imagine we'll take it seriously. And we made it, we sat down, we made it, we were so excited, Bang, Star Wars, Luke Skywalker has vanished. Oh, fucking yes. And at the end, we were just like, what? I think for me, it was when you'd had the emotional high point of the film, what felt to me like to be the wrong point, where Han died. It was sad and everything, but then it's like, right, now for the climax, an attack on Starkiller Base that I just did not give one fuck about. And I realised as that was happening, I was like, this is the actual climax. And everyone's forgotten completely about Luke Skywalker. Oh, there's this big base, we've got to kill it, because that's what happened in Star Wars. Which is fine, but don't expect me then to be punching the air at the end of that film, because then basically during the attack on Starkiller Base, I was like, oh man, this is it, isn't it? This is the last big action climax. And then of course we got the duel between Rey and Kylo, which was wicked. It was super sweet. But how much real personal antagonism was there between the two of them? I don't know, it's hard to neg on that because it was super sweet. But again, I realised it's got nothing to do with Luke Skywalker. It's got nothing to do with any of the stated objectives of the intro of the film. It's got nothing to do with Rey finding anything out about herself. It's just a fight. Luke Skywalker's not there. Now, had the lightsaber flinged off into Luke Skywalker's hand, I think that would have been a bit, as amazing as it would have been, it obviously was not set up for that. It would have been great had that been the case and had that been what happened. So anyway, the film cracks on, and then a bit where R2-D2 wakes up, it's just so lame. It's just not connected to anything of any importance. You know what I mean? The attack on Starkiller Base, they should have had to do that. They should have got something out of it that was essential for finding Luke. As it was, it didn't even need to fucking happen. Is that right? It didn't even need to happen. They could have found Luke as soon as BB-8 got to R2-D2. Is that right? Come on, it's weak sauce, that is. So at the end of that film, me and Neil were just like, is that it? We went home, we were gutted. We were on a massive downer. Now, we did not go into that film like these nasty fanboys that, like, if it's not how they want it to be, they'll kick off. It's like, I didn't want... Some of these people that seem to want it to fail, I didn't want it to fail. I wanted so badly to care about these characters that they told me I should be caring about, and then it just didn't materialise. I was gutted. Now, I did enjoy it the second time round, having watched it the second time, partly because I wasn't hoping to see things that, you know, I wanted to see. I knew what was coming, so I could just go along with the flow. So I still don't rate it mega highly, but I think they did an amazing job. So basically, summing up, very excited about Last Jedi, and cannot wait for Saturday when we go to see it. I hope it's good. I think it will be. Early buzz seems positive, and I think it's going to be good. See you there.